I used to think like stupid things like, well, when I go to sleep at night, do I have my mouth open or do I have my mouth shut? What do I do with my tongue? I just couldn't even remember how to sleep. That room of where that anxiety started when I had my baby, I even had trouble going in that room. It just felt yuck. I'd changed the bedding. I'd painted. I just had so many awful memories in that bedroom. So I download the bedtime app straight away. Then I started watching more the videos that you had about mums that suffered Insomnia. That was where I found everything clicked for me once I accepted and I was compassionate and kind to myself. That is actually when I stopped taking the sleeping tablets because I was okay with being gentle. If this is what I need for this stage in my life, this is okay. My children are going to be big one day. They're not going to be little forever. My husband's not going to be working away forever. This is okay for now, and this is my reality. I have to be okay with this. And if this is what I need, when you're going through it, it feels like it's your whole world. But it's probably like this little chunk in your life that when I decided to be kind and compassionate with myself, that's when everything changed.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another really special Talking Insomnia episode. We have Claire with us. Welcome.
Hi.
So nice to have you, Claire. And just so the audience knows how this came about, I think you actually sent an email saying you'd be happy to be a guest, and I was super excited about that. You're a bedtime graduate. You've been tuning into the channel, and you have a lot to tell us. So let's start from the beginning. How did you start having trouble sleeping, Claire?
I would say that I've always been what I would refer to as a light sleeper. My girlfriends and I always, we have girls' trips. They know that I like my own bed. I don't like noise. You know, I can't handle like a ticking clock. It's always been a joke that growing up, I would stay at my best friend's house and I'd get up through the night and take the batteries out of the clock. But I think the huge turning point for me was I was okay with not sleeping. My husband and I would say more often than not, don't sleep in the same bed. But when we've traveled before we had children and got married and there wasn't an option to say go to a spare room, I was just like, okay, I can't sleep, but I'm in Mexico, so YOLO, who cares? So that all changed when I had my first child, my son. That was a real turning point for me. He was a premature baby after years of IVF. So I think I had a lot of anxiety building around trying to get pregnant, try to stay pregnant. I was in hospital on bed rest with him. I had what's called placenta previa. My husband missed the birth, unfortunately, of our child. It was during COVID. It was lockdown. I had a 7-week premature baby and came home with little or no support because of COVID and our circumstances. And I remember one night I just didn't sleep. And I remember sitting up in bed one night, literally Googling, can't sleep, just had a baby. And I was hoping for it to say something like, oh no, you know, due to the hormonal changes or when your milk comes in. And it just come up and said postnatal anxiety. And I still remember this image was a woman, like it was a sketch, and she was cradling down the cot beside her baby. And it was like, you know, if you can't sleep, you have postnatal anxiety. And I remember thinking like, well, what's wrong with me? My baby's asleep, but I'm not sleeping. And I had to be up with him every 2 hours because he was premature. We had to feed so often to get weight on him. So I would feed and then pump. And then before that 2-hour mark was up and I hadn't slept. And a really good girlfriend of mine, I rang her and she was a nurse and she meant well. She works in emergency. So I remember ringing her and said, I haven't slept for 2 days. But I was okay with that kind of at that point. And she said, oh, Claire, you need to sleep when the baby sleeps. That's not right. You need to sleep. And then she's like, that's not normal not to sleep. And then it was just a cascade of interventions, going to the doctors, getting sleep medication. My husband had to come back from work. He worked 3 hours away. So he used to stay where he worked because it was too far to commute back and forth. And I had my mum supporting me because I was on all of these sleep medications, and then I was paranoid I wouldn't hear my baby cry. And it got really bad to the point that I had conversations with my GP and said, this is not right. I'm not right. This is not sleeping. And I ended up putting myself into a mums and bubs psychiatric ward. But since finding you, I'm no doctor, but I don't think I had postnatal anxiety. I actually was so confident with my baby. Like, even my mum was like, I can't believe how confident you are. Like, he was tiny being premature. I didn't have any bonding issues. I felt instantly calm when I was holding him. I don't know if it was the endorphins, but my whole life revolved around sleep, my sleep or lack of sleep, to the point where I was so in my head about sleep. I used to think like stupid things like, well, when I go to sleep at night, do I have my mouth open or do I have my mouth shut? What do I do with my tongue? Or like, I just couldn't even remember how to sleep. And yeah, it just got really, really bad. And then I got a lot better. And then we decided to have my daughter. So 2 years later, again, IVF, much better pregnancy, much better delivery, a very healing birth.
Sorry to interrupt, Claire, but just just for a little clarification,
Yeah.
it sounded like to me that you had these 2 nights where you didn't sleep at all, but at that
Yes.
point you were still not super worried about it. That this was
No.
odd and strange, right? But then essentially, like when your friend said,
Yeah.
again, like with like the intent was she was nice and trying to be helpful,
Yeah.
but essentially said like, this isn't right, this shouldn't be happening. Was that the moment when kind of alarm bells
Yes.
went off in your mind?
Yeah, because it's probably a bit hard to explain because obviously you guys were in COVID too, but my husband was at home as long as he could, but we have our own business. And when COVID hit, we had no money coming in, and he had to go back to work. He'd had time off when the baby was in hospital. And I remember when I rang her, she's like, you need to get your husband home. Like, you need to get Rob home. You're not sleeping. And I said, well, that's just not a possibility. He can't come home. And she said, I'll come and stay with you. And she come and stayed with the best intentions. But she just wanted to medicate me. And I think that was just her nursing brain. She works in emergency, probably with people that do have mental health issues. And she really encouraged me to go to the doctors and get some temazepam. I don't know if you guys call it that. But it was really the sheer look on her face when I hadn't said I hadn't slept in 2 nights. Like the look of like, well, what's wrong with you? What do you mean you're not sleeping? And then it just something clicked in my head. Like, I felt tired, but I wasn't too concerned that I hadn't slept in 2 nights.
Yeah, in a way, you could probably explain by the fact that like you have a little baby, there are worries going on, there are a lot going on. So in a way, we could be like, oh, I'm probably maybe a little stressed around that. But now there's the idea that something different is going on, something is wrong.
Yeah,
right?
and then I think when I Googled that night and I literally said, just had baby, can't sleep, and the first thing that come up was postnatal anxiety.
Yeah.
And then I talked myself into it that, oh my God, I have postnatal anxiety. Yeah, I was not depressed, but I was like, oh my God, that's it. I'm not sleeping. I'm anxious about not sleeping. I have postnatal anxiety. Well, I just had a baby, so postnatal, and then I had anxiety. So it just seemed to be what I thought was wrong with me and what the doctors thought was wrong with me.
Yeah. And then you were prescribed a temazepam, and was it one of those like it worked for a night or two, then it stopped working, or did it like not help at all, or what was that
No,
experience like?
it helped tremendously. So it was a really double-edged sword then, because I got, say, maybe a week's worth. And then I remember I slept and I was like, this is amazing. I need this feeling all the time. And I'm not a drug addict, but I could imagine that's probably what crack would feel like. Like I was like, this is amazing. And then I was like, oh my God, I've got to make this 7 nights work. So then I started like halving the tablet. And then when I only had like 1 or 2 nights left, I was like, oh, I've got to get better. I've got to get better before this runs out, because the doctor's not going to give me any more. And then that's when I started to try like over the counter stuff. And then that wasn't working. And other types of what you would call sleep efforts. And then the anxiety around bedtime was so bad. It would start to get dark, and that dread and fear of the sun setting. And that's when I thought, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need proper help. And that's when I decided to admit myself into a mums and bubs ward.
Yeah. And for
Yes.
I've never heard that moms and bobs before. What does that mean?
Yep. So it's basically, I don't know if you guys call it that. So it's like a perinatal psychiatric, can't speak,
Oh, okay.
unit. So it's for like mental health conditions. So it's basically anybody can go to one of what we call a mums and bubs ward in hospital if their child is less than 12 months old.
I see.
Yes.
And so yeah, you're obviously in a very distressed state, very worried, and your thought is like, I need help. You're
Yep.
admitting yourself there, and
Yes.
many in our community find that it's well, there's different type of experiences, but for many it
Yes.
becomes like essentially they essentially try to sedate you to make you sleep, and it can be I don't know, it can be what was your experience like, if you want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, I made the most amazing friends in there. But I remember sitting there and we were all discussing, like, amongst ourselves, about how we came to be in there. And, one girl said, oh, my husband called the ambulance, like she might have had a postnatal depression. And another girl was like, I was suicidal. And then they came to me and they said, well, how did you come to be here? And I said, oh, my husband drove me. And then I knew from then, I was like, my story is different. I didn't have trouble bonding with my baby. I didn't have suicide thoughts. I was 1,000% anxious. Like I was doing stupid things to try and get sleep. But yes, that is true. So for the first 3 nights, they do take your baby off you. I'm not in a like I was voluntarily there, so I could leave at any time. It wasn't like I was, there by the government on arrest type of thing. But they do take your baby for the first 3 nights to do the overnight feeds to help the mother. And in that 3 nights, they do sedate you. And that wasn't even working. I'm quite a small person. So I remember the first night the nurse said to me, oh, we're going to give you this type of drug. You'll probably only need 5 milligrams because of your build. Oh my God, 5 milligrams didn't even touch the surface. I was on like 250 milligrams because the anxiety around sleep was so bad. And then it almost made it worse because I was like, you get about 2 weeks in these facilities, unless obviously you're very bad. But because I was voluntarily there, I then put more pressure that I need to get this sleep stuff worked out in 2 weeks, because when I get home, I need to be fixed. And it did get better, but with drugs. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's in a way it's kind of similar to the prescription you got, that like
Yes.
it had this time frame. It has to be better in 7 days.
Yes.
And that pressure is really tricky, right? And now we have like it has to get better in 2 weeks. Kind of tricky situation as well.
Yes.
And so yeah, what happens? You're eventually released or discharged, and what happens next?
So I stay in there for about 3 weeks, and I come home and I'm on some sleep medication as well as some anti-anxiety, like an SSRI. I don't know what you guys call them. And sleep was better. It was better. Definitely comes in ebbs and flows though. I think I was on that sleep medication for about 6 months. And it became a thing as like take as needed. So it did get better. And then I decided to have my daughter. And as I said, quite briefly touched on before, that it was a whole different experience, the pregnancy, the birth and everything like that. But then my old friend insomnia reared its ugly head again postpartum. I think because it was such an awful time that that fear was so ingrained in me. And I carried a lot of guilt, that, my husband and I had wanted this baby and we were like just overjoyed after years of trying. And I really felt like I wrecked that time for us because it's very shameful. You have a baby and you're in a psychiatric ward. No one knew that. And yeah, I had my daughter and it reared its ugly head again, but this time I was very proactive about it. I spoke to my GP straight away and said, this is my history. This is what I've been through. So we started straight again on the sleep medication. And that did work until it didn't work. My mum got diagnosed with cancer, and my husband had to go work interstate. So I had a lot of huge, big shifts. So that's when I discovered you, because what I was doing no longer was working. But at the same time, things didn't escalate as quickly as they did with my first. I think maybe because I was proactive with going to the doctors and things like that. But I just knew that something had to change and I had to try something that I hadn't, because what I was doing was not working.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very intense period, and no doubt, no wonder that there was this resurfacing, all the this insomnia, all the stress around it. And how did you come across our work?
I think I might have even found you, like in Australia, we don't really use, is it Reddit? Is that what you guys
Reddit,
call?
yeah.
Yeah, we don't really, it's something that we don't really use. It might come up on our Google, but I think I might have been actually Googling like sleep not medications, but I'd tried naturopaths, I'd tried the herbal teas, I'd tried the melatonin. I think I was probably, honest to God, probably searching for something like that, and then found like a thread about a girl that had explained what insomnia was. I'm a hairdresser and I have a lot of clients, and you build that rapport with them. And I've had lots of clients over the years say I have insomnia, but I just thought insomnia. So my dad has insomnia really bad, but he never worries the fact that he can't sleep. So I just thought insomnia was people that don't sleep but that are okay with it. I didn't realize the psychological stuff, like behind the scenes. And then I think I watched one video and then I was down the rabbit hole. I was watching a video and I was like, that's me. Oh my God, I do that. Oh my God, that's me. And then it become like this aha moment that I was so excited that I remember ringing my husband and I'm saying, I've got insomnia. Like it was like so plain that I just felt like it was so obvious, but it wasn't obvious. Yeah.
You had this aha moment where you're like, oh, this is insomnia, which made me like a question come up in my mind, which was like, during this period where you talked to your doctor, GP, other doctors, had the word insomnia like never really come up? Or
no? The thing I used to get a lot was sleep hygiene. Even my husband, he's a construction worker and sometimes does night shift, so they do what you call like sleep courses. And he used to say to me, oh, you get your best sleep before midnight, no screen times before television, go to bed to sleep. wind down. So the doctor basically just told me everything that I'd done and that I'd tried before. My husband, if there was an Olympic sport for sleeping, he would be a gold medalist.
I
He
see.
can sleep, and his answer would be like, just go sleep, don't worry about it. So one night I think I sat up all night watching television, and he said, well, you'll be tired enough, you'll fall asleep. Yeah, that's not true. But no, never insomnia ever come up, just sleep hygiene and what I should be doing to get good sleep. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's kind of remarkable, actually, in a way. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Your story is you found the child, you realize this is insomnia, and you see all these people that are like, oh, this person's just like me, and relating to it. And what happens next?
So I download the bedtime app straight away. And looking back, I think it's like a testament to you guys that especially I think when someone's desperate in any regard, if it's sleep or something else, you want to know everything here and you get down that rabbit hole. And I almost at the start wanted more than what that app gave me. But I think that's a great tool because then you can become obsessed with it. So when I first read the couple of more modules or what you'd want to call them, then I started watching more the videos that you had about mums that suffered mumsomnia, whatever you want to call it. That was where I found everything clicked. I think maybe because I could relate to that feeling that your sleep is on a time schedule. Your baby's going to wake up every 3 hours overnight, so you have to get sleep, because if you don't sleep when they sleep, you don't get sleep.
You related to the other kind of mom, and how you have this timing, you have to sleep, or you don't have any chance to sleep, or that.
I don't think if I hadn't have gone through what I went through before having children, and someone had come and said to me, oh, I'm anxious about not getting to sleep, I'd be like, well, what are you worried about? Just sleep tomorrow. But I think it's because of, and I'm not taking away from anybody that has insomnia, people have stressful jobs and things like that. But I think especially when you're in that postpartum period, any sleep is just magical. And when you can't sleep, it's a whole nother ball game. Yeah. Because I think, like, as I mentioned, I've always not been a great sleeper, but I've never had to worry about anybody else but myself if I was tired. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And now, so you're finding that, there are other people, but particularly moms have gone through the same as you have. You're learning from them. You're learning from these modules in the app. And are things kind of slowly starting to shift to getting easier, or do you have like the aha moments and then things go like kind of the back and forth, or what's it like?
To be honest, I was really waiting for my aha moment. I was like, it's coming. It's coming. And it took a really long time to come. A really long time. And that aha moment, I can still remember when it was and how it was. I wasn't medicating myself to going to sleep. I had no anxiety around sleep, but I wasn't sleeping in our bed. And that's probably what I have forgot to mention, that room of where that anxiety started when I had my baby. I even had trouble going in that room. It just felt yuck. I'd changed the bedding. I'd painted. I just had so many awful memories in that bedroom. And then I become sleeping on the couch. And that was my safe place because I could sleep on the couch. So I had this beautiful bed and I would choose to sleep on the couch. And one night, not too recently actually, and that's when I reached out to you because I did have my aha moment. I laid on the couch and I could not get to sleep. And I was like, what is this? I'm on the couch. Like, why can't I get to sleep? And then I was like, you know what? I'm okay about not getting to sleep, but I'm on the couch and that's where I sleep well. So if I can't get to sleep on the couch and I'm okay with that, then why the hell aren't I in my bed? And then I just got up and I went to my bed and I slept because I was like, the whole point of me sleeping on the couch is so I don't feel like this. But I feel like this and I'm still on the couch, so I might as well be in my beautiful, lush, comfy bed than on a couch. And that was my aha moment. But it took a very long
Wow.
time to come. A very long time. It
And
didn't
and
come as
and
quick
that
as I'd hoped. Yes.
yeah, no. What can you say? It is an unpredictable journey, and it's like you never know when it's going to happen, but it's wonderful
Yeah.
when it does. And they
Yes.
must have been had this moment on the couch where you were like, I'm not
Yeah.
sleeping, but actually I'm actually okay with that. And
Yes.
something must have led you up to the point where you were like not sleeping, but not really stressing about that. Uh,
Yes. I think
right.
it was definitely the stuff that I learned in the app that I can't make myself go to sleep. Um, but I'm definitely not one of these people like if I can't sleep, I'm not going to get up and fold washing and I've heard people on your channel say, I get up and I do things. To me, I'm like, well, at least I'm resting if I'm not sleeping. I would prefer to be in my nice warm couch then. um, but yeah, something I think I just laid there and thought, you know what? I'm going to be okay if I don't sleep. I'll be okay. Um, and that's okay if it's going to take me a little while. I'll get there. I'll get there. But yeah, so look, and I won't lie, I do have nights that I would probably say maybe tonight might be a night that I might have difficulty getting to sleep because I've got a really big day tomorrow. I've got my best friend is getting married and I've organised her, well, you guys call it bachelorette party. We call it a hens party. I have to travel a lot. I have to be up early, first night away from both of the kids. So there is that sleep pressure of performance anxiety and it will be there and I know it will be there. And it'll probably be there the night before the wedding too, because you feel like you have to be on. And I think that's always going to be there with me because that's my personality. But I'm aware of that now and I know what it is. And I think that's the difference. It's the knowledge that I'm like, okay, my brain is like that and that's okay. My husband could get a phone call and it could be like, your business burnt down and he'd be like, okay, no worries, roll over, go to sleep and deal with that in the morning. Where my brain would be like, and now I just realized, well, that's who I am and that's how my brain works. Doesn't mean I'm broken. It just means I'm different than what you are. But would I give anything to be like him and sleep anywhere? Yes. Um, do we sleep in the same bed often? No. But that works for us and he's okay with that and I'm okay with that. And why the
Yeah.
kids are little and, sleep is a little bit harder. But as I said, I've always been like that, but just not the anxiety around it until
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great
So,
point. Like
but
all
he's
of
a
us humans have like
snorer. He's a very bad snorer. So, look, I don't know if anyone could sleep beside him.
I mean that's true.
Yeah.
Like like loud noise can disrupt our sleep, and
Yeah,
you know, just adding on to your point there, we all have different temperaments. Like some of us are
absolutely.
by nature a little bit more like you know active brain and tend to have a little
Yes.
bit more lighter sleep, right?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean there has to be any struggle around that whatsoever, right?
I think before kids, I used to sleep with like noise cancelling earphones on to sleep in bed with him, but I can't do that now because of the kids. Like I just find it's just, yeah, it won't be forever. But yeah, so I suppose that's my journey. So the reason I wanted to come on here is I'm a person that really benefits from hearing not necessarily success stories, but knowing that when you're in it, you're not the only one. Like there's a lot of power in that, I think, because sometimes when you're going through this and you try to explain to someone like, I haven't slept, they're like, oh, you haven't slept. Oh, yeah, no worries. But to you, it's the biggest problem. And people get sick of hearing about that you haven't slept. and becomes an obsession about sleep. Yeah. I think if someone come up to you and said, there's this pill and you're going to take it and you're going to sleep the best for the rest of your life, we would throw any amount of money at it because you become so desperate.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
so true.
Mm.
And yeah, obviously, thanks so much, Claire, for sharing all this. And I just have like a few more questions for you.
Yeah, go for it. Hubby's inside now, so he can
Yeah, they
entertain.
are. Okay,
Yep,
okay,
yep,
okay,
yep,
good.
all good. Yep.
Yeah, I know
No,
your
you
kids there,
guys,
so I don't want to
it
keep
was
going.
so hard to get organized, so we might as well take the time while we're here.
Yes, yes, very true. One of them now.
Yep.
It doesn't. Of course, like a point I very often make is that
Yes.
we can we can take sleeping medications and have no conflict around that and sleep well and have a wonderful
Yes.
life, or we can not take sleeping medications and have no struggle with that and sleep. So it doesn't actually matter, but just for the interest of the story and for maybe we can teach
Yes.
something to people, what happened for you as for the sleeping pills?
Really bad. So it's funny how, like, if someone said the things that you were feeling, like if I said to my girlfriend, I haven't slept, so I've taken a sleeping pill, and you'd beat yourself up. But if I had a girlfriend say that to me, I'd give them compassion and say, look, don't worry about it. It's not going to be forever. But on myself, God, I was hard. I would ring up my girlfriends and say, like, I'm failing. What is wrong with me? I can't believe I'm taking sleep medications. I wouldn't tell my husband. Like, I would get up during the night and take one and forget to put like the medicine box back. And he'd say, oh, what did you get up last night and take something out of the medicine box? I'd say, oh, I've had a headache, because I wouldn't even want to admit. Yeah, that conflict was really hard, really, really hard. And I even found, when I had my daughter and I reached out to the GP, like my second child, and said, this is what's happening again, then I started to compare my journey between both the children. And I'd say, well, when I had my son, I only needed one tablet and now I'm taking two. I'm going backwards. That line of being okay with it was really hard for me. But then I also wanted sleep. And then I would find, I did try one of the methods that I think you spoke to someone about, and it was basically, what was it? It was a really weird name you called it. It was something like,
Vitaminize?
no, what was it? It was basically like, if you're saying you're not going
An
to go,
acronym?
it was something like, if you're not going to do it, just don't do it. Like, as in, I forgot the word that you said. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take anything tonight. And then that would almost be worse. So with my type of personality, to come off the sleeping tablets, I had to go gently, and that might not work for everybody. Cold turkey might work for some people, and I did try that, but there was that pressure. So for me, it was go gently, and if that was take a half, take a quarter, and then the next night it might have been a bad night and I might have been back to one, and I'd go, oh my God, I'm going backwards. And then I'd say, no, Claire, that's okay. Tomorrow night we'll try again. So then I went down to a quarter, and then I might have went without it for 2 or 3 nights and then took a half the next night. So I would say for me, once I accepted and I was compassionate and kind to myself, that is actually when I stopped taking the sleeping tablets, because I was okay with being gentle. But that might not be everybody's journey. But
No,
yeah.
everybody's journey obviously is different, but I would say that what you describe, I think is how for very many people the
Yeah.
it becomes that way for many people, and it's very paradoxical because in a way you're saying to yourself, if I take it, that's okay, and we can think like, oh, if I give myself the okay to take it, I'm never going to get off. I'm always going to take it, but it's actually the opposite. When we say like, if I take it, okay, then there's no pressure. If we have to take it, and then we kind of like are gentle with ourselves, and then it kind of like just falls off, like it did for you. So I'm really glad you shared that. I think that knowing that can help
And
so
there
many
was
people.
like a time where, like, I remember I completely ran out of one of the sleeping tablets I was on, and I said to my girlfriend, oh, I don't have any left. And I said, oh, that's okay. I just won't get the script filled then. That's it. I'm off it. And she said to me, Claire, go get the script filled. It doesn't mean you have to take it, but it's there if you need it. And even just having it there and not taking it might just ease that anxiety that you don't have it. And she was right. I went and got the script filled and I haven't taken it. But if I do ever take it, that's okay. But it's there if I need it. But yeah, it can be a slippery slope, I find. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the way you relate to it and the way you shared it, I think it's really, really helpful. I'm glad you shared this with the community. Really, really helpful. Another such a common question that I want to bring up with you. There's this other aha moment that many people have, which is the one where you see that the experience of the day after is not it's not really so much about how many hours we sleep, but often how much we how we reacted to that and how we responded to that. Did you find that, or did you have any kind of aha moments in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I found sometimes the nights that I probably don't get as much sleep, I've probably actually got more energy. The nights that I think I've slept amazing, I feel probably just as tired as the nights that I did have 4 hours. So I don't know if I actually see a difference, to be honest. I think you're totally right. Like the amount of things that you do off little sleep, but you talk yourself into it. I know this is probably a bit off topic, but my dad has insomnia, but he refuses to take anything. And I remember we were on a holiday and we were flying to Thailand. So that's probably maybe 12 hours from Australia. And I gave my dad a temazepam because he doesn't sleep on flights like I don't. You know, it's not in our bed, it's not quiet, it's not dark. And he was snoring his head off. We were laughing at him. He was snoring he was drooling. And I remember he sat up and his hair was like all bushy tailed. Like he literally looked like he'd stuck his hand in a PowerPoint. And he said, I did not sleep a wink. He's like, I feel like shit. I did not sleep. And we were laughing. We're like, Dad, you were like, the whole plane could hear you. And he was like, no, those sleeping tablets did not work. And we were like, we could hear you snoring halfway down the plane. So he literally had in his head that he did not sleep. So I think that's a massive thing is reality too. When you can't sleep, I don't always think is real. I think maybe we think we've slept worse than what we actually have. Look, I don't know.
No, I think you're spot on. I was,
Yeah.
there was a very funny story. I kind of saw where it was going, and it went there, and it was in terms of sharing that. But I think there's actually a lot of evidence of exactly what you say, that when you look at people who have no struggle with the sleep, they tend to overestimate how much they sleep by about an hour, and people who say that I have insomnia or I struggle with sleep, they tend to underestimate by on average about an hour. So there's definitely definitely there's truth there.
Yes.
Now, maybe my 2 last questions for you, Claire, is firstly, did you find that going kind of through this journey that you learned some things that were helpful in other areas of life?
I think for me, it's been a little bit of realization that I didn't think I was much of a control freak. And I think that's why, one, having children is the biggest thing that you can't control. And then you can't really control your sleep too. So that has opened my eyes that I do have that trait in my personality, and I would have never have thought that would have been the case. So when I do spin out and have a little bit of a, days where I'm like, why am I anxious? What is wrong with me? And I'm like, okay, I can't control that. That is what's wrong with me. So it's probably opened my eyes to that a lot of when I do get anxiety is because I'm out of control. But if I didn't have the insomnia, I probably wouldn't have put those two together. But yeah, I think, yeah.
No, that's I mean, I think that's incredibly
Yeah.
valuable. Like seeing what other
Yeah.
things in life we can't control, and then not attempting to like get
Yeah.
control. And really valuable.
Yeah. I think it's really like shined a light on that. I wouldn't have said I was a creature of habit, or I wouldn't have said that I was a person that lacked structure and routine, but I absolutely am. But it wasn't until I went through this that I can reflect and be like, oh my God, I am a very structured person. I do like routine. I do like things like that. And that's one thing you can't control is your sleep. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a
No.
question for you, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Go for it.
So, do you think that some people are just what you'd call light sleepers? Like, why do you have someone like my husband that could fall asleep? Like, he falls asleep at Christmas while we're all like in the lounge room and he'll be like falling asleep in front of 20 people on the floor snoring off his head. Like, why do you have some people that can just nod off in a chair and then you have other people like me that needs it dark, needs it quiet, not too quiet though. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it just what we're like our personalities?
I think so. I think there
Yeah.
is like personality, temperament, whatever you call it. I think it is a real thing, and it is like there is some genetically determined traits that we have that are just like we're wired that way. We're born that way. Some of us humans, we are naturally very like easy-go-lucky, kind of like not don't tend to worry about anything, right? And other of us humans, we tend to be like a little bit type A, perfectionist, hard worker, driven, like control, a little bit more active brain. And I think
Mhm.
that reflects in sleep. Like,
Sleep. Yeah.
some like the kind of easy-go-lucky type person tends to kind of fall asleep easily, sleep through the night, et cetera, et cetera. And the kind of like more type A personality tends to
Yes.
have a little bit more shallow sleep. And I think that's just a reflection of like our temperament. I think that's real. But again,
Yeah.
I said it earlier, pointing it out again to the community here, you can have any type of personality or temperament and still have like zero struggle with sleep and have like a wonderful life, and a meaningful life, and not struggle with anything, but I think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes me feel, but well, you basically have described my husband pretty cruisy, doesn't really get stressed. Yeah. He's saying to everything is, it'll be right. It'll be right. I'm like, no, it's not going to be right. Like we're totally different. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's good you have him, and I'm sure you're a great match in that way. You kind of like have different personalities. But
Yep.
what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Any other questions for me, by the way?
No. No.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
cool. That's
think I
cool. Well,
just wish that there's more resources. I just don't understand how GPs or even like a clinical psychologist, like no one talks about insomnia. Like it just once you go down the rabbit hole of like your philosophy or whatever you want to call it, it's just so simple. And I just don't understand how we haven't clicked. Yeah.
No, I think it's super unfortunate, and I think it's like insomnia kind of falls in between like medicine, because a doctor will not think of it as like this is not really a medical problem, and but
Yes.
like psychologists also may not think that this is like a psychological thing. They may think this is more medical, so it's kind of like it
Yeah.
falls between the chairs.
Yeah.
And
I
hopefully,
did want to touch on though, about what's been a huge learning curve for me is when I found you and your philosophy was the symptoms on the body when you can't sleep. Like I remember my husband would say, oh, who cares? Doesn't matter that you can't sleep. And I would say to him, it's not even the fact of being tired, it's the panic attacks, the anxiety attacks, the heart palpitations, the dry mouth, I'd pace the house, I'd get like the jolts, the feeling of like electricity going through your body, like a tingling. It would be those sensations, and when I would have trouble getting to sleep, those sensations would kick in before my brain would say that I can't sleep, and that soon as I would feel them tingles and the heart going was when I would jump up out of bed and start pacing the house, because they would just be like, it's actually really frightening, and people don't talk about the fear. And it's not even rational. If you say to someone, I can't sleep, and they say, well, yeah, well, who cares? You're not going to die. But for me, it was, I'm going crazy. What the hell is wrong with me? Am I going to end up in a nut house, like an institution? Like, what is going on? This is not normal human behavior. So I don't think that is discussed enough, is the bodily functions, I suppose, that it happens when you can't sleep.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's a topic that maybe we should talk more about on our channel, and it's of course not talked about much in general at all. But that can become, of course, like its own loop. Essentially, the way I think of it, and you tell me if this resonates with you, Claire, is that if you take any person and put them in this like situation where they think they're really threatened, like they're really, really on edge, they probably will have like the the heart racing fast, like the electricity in the like the breathing fast, like all these symptoms. But if you're somehow anxious or threatened because of something tangible, something that's right in front of you, then it's like it makes sense to you. It's like, oh, I'm feeling these things because this is happening. So we don't really think so much about it. But when we have this like internal threat, when the threat is inside us, and we think like, the fact that I'm not sleeping means I'm broken, I'm gonna die, I'm going crazy, and we feel all these sensations in our body, it doesn't make sense to us. It's kind of like, why am I feeling this way? And then it comes this loop, because we're like, the fact that I'm feeling this way must mean something is wrong.
Yeah.
And then we become even more worried that something, and then we feel even more of that, right?
The catastrophizing, like I'd be like, I can't sleep. How am I going to look after my baby? Oh my God, who's going to look after my baby? Can I even look after I'm going to have my baby taken off me. And then it's like, from one night of not sleeping, and then it goes from this to this, like, yeah, it's just absolutely wild.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, as you brought this up, and now people who hear this will go like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, Claire was in that spot.
Yeah.
How did she get out of that spot? I mean, you've already talked about kind of education and learning, but would you say, was it, to me, I think that when we kind of understand what's going on and see that there's no actual real threat, that's kind of a key. But maybe there's some things I'm kind of missing, or something you would add to that.
I honestly think I would say it was being on the medication and saying to myself that if this is what I need for this stage in my life, this is okay. My children are going to be big one day. They're not going to be little forever. My husband's not going to be working away forever. You know, this is okay for now, and this is my reality. I have to be okay with this. And if this is what I need just for this, you know, like when you're going through it, it feels like it's your whole world, but it's probably like this little chunk in your life that when I decided to be kind and compassionate with myself, that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was
Wow.
when, like, obviously I found you and understood what insomnia was, and I changed my thinking, but I wasn't quite there. Like, I wasn't back in my bed and I wasn't off the medication and things like that. I was here, and then I got here, but it did take a little while to get over there. But that's when the compassion came into it, I think, was my winning point for me. And I've got a girlfriend at the moment, the one that I said that I'm very close with, and she's having a lot of sleep issues, and she's gone to a clinical psychiatrist, and she's very much on the slippery slope of the medication, and now it's worsening, and the side effects and the dependency, and now being on from the outside in, it's really hard to watch, because you think that you're getting help, but it's that double-edged sword. Like I said before, it's helpful, but then it's not helpful at the same time. But she's not ready to befriend a wakefulness yet. And you've got to be ready to sometimes, I think, as well. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I absolutely believe that.
Like, there's times that I've read a lot of your stuff, and then sunk in a little bit, and then I would go back, and then I'd come back again. It wasn't like I just read it and everything changed. It took a little while.
Mhm.
Yeah, but everybody might be different as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the nice thing is like if one at some point your friend is like kind of like has a different, maybe open for new perspective, then you're there and you can
Yeah,
share your journey and
absolutely.
gladly super helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, last question for you is if you could, travel back in time to maybe when you had your first baby and this all started,
Yes.
what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself that you will eventually sleep, and what you're going through is normal. You're a new mum. It's a new season. You've never done this before. And maybe this is your way of protecting your babies, feeling like that you have to be awake, and that's okay. And it's not going to be like this forever. Yeah. That,
Yeah.
yeah. That's just, yeah. Like, oh God. You just look back and you're like, oh my God, that was awful. It was awful.
Well, but that's
Yeah.
well, it was an intense journey. It was very clear from what you shared with us, and I'm so glad you
Yeah.
are, at a place where the struggle is behind you. And just
Yeah.
want to thank you so
And I
much for
also
sharing.
just want to
Yep.
say that, like, obviously 90% of the time, it's great. But like, as I said, tonight, I might not sleep great. But, like, it might always be there. Who knows? But I know how to deal with it now. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the way I think of it is like anytime we go through something that was really, really difficult and scary, it's like we
Mhm.
have a little bit of like that PTSD type like
Absolutely.
experience.
It's like a trauma, and it lives with inside you. And I think it, honest to God, the things that happened with my firstborn was almost like a PTSD, that it wholeheartedly has changed me forever as a person. Not in a bad way. I
Yeah.
probably should have become way more resilient and things like that, but it's ingrained in there. Yeah.
I believe that. And the reason I wanted to just spend a second on that was that when people hear that, they can go like, oh my gosh, this means this is never going to go away. This is it forever. I'm going to always have that. But that's not what we were saying. What we're saying is that any one of us who's had a really intense, kind of scary experience, we're not going to
Mhm.
forget that. But
Mhm.
the memory with time becomes like a little bit more distant, a little bit less scary. So maybe, every, I'm just going to say something random, but like every
Mhm.
6 months, it's half as scary. Like, and every 6 months, it's half as scary and then half scary. It may never go down to zero, right? We may
Mhm.
never always have a little bit of
Mhm.
like a reaction when we think about what happened, but it can diminish over time, and definitely to a point where it doesn't affect our life at all. We live
Mhm.
our life fully and richly. Right? Do you see it that way also, Claire?
Yeah, most definitely. And there's just one other thing I just remembered. Sorry, I didn't have any of this written down, so my brain's like, woo. I did listen to one, I don't know if it was a coach or a guest you had, and it was how to get back into your bed. So that was probably the second half of my struggle. So the first one was sleeping without medication, being okay, um, being on the couch, but then getting back into the bed. Yes, that was quite difficult, that one. Um, but it was about spending more time in my bedroom, and totally against what doctors tell you. I hated my bedroom so much, I wouldn't even watch TV in there. It was just, ugh. I didn't like being in there. Yuck. So I did listen to a segment that you had, and it was about, okay, well, what about just spending time in there, creating happy memories? So I'd go in there and watch movies. Yes, go back to the couch. But the first couple of times I'd watch movies in there, I couldn't even relax. I was like this in bed. And then one night I was like, oh, I feel really good being in here. So it was just like, as I said, go gently, baby steps, worked for me. And that was how I got back in the bed as well.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. Super helpful. And as you said, like mainstream would tell you something different, but I think
Yeah,
it makes
don't be in
total
your
sense
bed
that,
apart from sleep. Yeah,
you know,
don't watch TV in bed. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's conclude here,
Thank you.
Claire. Thank you so much for being a guest, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Thank you so much. See ya.
And
Bye.
bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hi, it's me, Daniel, and I hope you found a ton of value in the video that you just watched. As you can probably tell, we share everything freely on our YouTube channel about what leads us from insomnia to a place of peaceful sleep for the rest of our lives. But it can take some time and bandwidth to go through all the free content to find the answers to the questions that you have. And this is why we have already done curation for you in our Insomnia Immunity program and in bedtime. So if you want to save some time and bandwidth, those are great options for you. In our Insomnia Immunity program, we have a video-based curriculum. In bedtime, we have a text-based curriculum. Either way, what really matters is that the content is laid out in a logical fashion, in a stepwise fashion, where every step takes you closer to that place of peaceful sleep for the rest of your life. If this sounds like something you'd like to explore, head over to our website, thesleepcoachtool.com. And if you decide to join and let us guide you forward, we can't wait to see you on the other side.